The night Raphael Santini walked into that charity gala, he owned every room before entering it. Power clung to him like expensive cologne. Silent, absolute, unmistakable. He moved through the crowd with predatory grace, dark eyes scanning faces he'd already catalogued as irrelevant. Then he saw her. Across the marble floor, beneath crystal chandeliers that fractured light into diamonds, stood a woman who didn't flinch when their eyes met. She didn't look away. She didn't smile. And in that single moment of defiance, something ancient and possessive awakened in his chest. His world tilted. He'd been searching without knowing. Now he'd found her. Please like, share, and subscribe. Raphael's hand tightened imperceptibly around his glass. The scotch inside barely moved, but his focus had shifted entirely. She wore emerald silk that hugged curves with deliberate elegance, her dark hair swept up to expose the vulnerable column of her throat. Beautiful women were commonplace in his world, decorative, predictable, forgettable. This one was different. There was steel beneath the silk, intelligence behind those hazel eyes that assessed him with the same calculated interest he'd shown her. "Who is she?" he asked his consigliere without breaking eye contact. Marco followed his gaze and hesitated. That hesitation told Raphael everything. Ariana Greco, Don Santini. She's, tell me, widow. Her husband was Antonio Greco. Died 3 years ago in the Porto Vecchio incident. Raphael's jaw tightened. He knew that name. Antonio Greco had been a low-level associate who'd gotten caught in crossfire that wasn't meant for him. Collateral damage. The kind of casualty Raphael's world produced without mercy or memory. He'd sent money to the widow. Anonymous. Substantial. Blood money wrapped in corporate checks. She'd refused it. Every single payment. The realization hit him with unexpected force. This woman standing across the ballroom in emerald silk, meeting his stare with unflinching composure, was the same widow who'd returned his guilt money with a handwritten note that simply read, "I don't want your pity." Something dangerous stirred in his chest. Interest became intent. He moved. The crowd parted without conscious thought, bodies instinctively creating space for a man whose presence commanded it. Raphael crossed the distance with purposeful strides, aware of the eyes tracking him, the whispers starting like wind through trees. He stopped directly in front of her, close enough to catch the faint scent of jasmine and something uniquely her. "Dance with me." Not a question. Never a question from a man who didn't ask for things. He took them, or he didn't want them enough. Ariana's chin lifted slightly. That sounded like a command. It was. His voice was velvet over steel, the accent still clinging to certain vowels despite 2 decades in America. "But I can rephrase if it makes you feel better about saying yes." Her eyes narrowed. Up close, he could see gold flecks in the hazel, could trace the elegant arch of her brows and the stubborn set of her mouth. "What makes you think I'll say yes either way?" "Because you're curious." He extended his hand, patient as a predator. "And because you've been watching me as intently as I've been watching you." A flash of something crossed her face, surprise that he'd noticed, irritation that she'd been caught. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, weighing options he couldn't predict. Then she placed her hand in his, and electricity shot up his arm. The contact was simple, palm to palm, but Raphael felt it like a brand. He led her to the dance floor with possessive certainty, one hand settling at the small of her back with proprietary firmness. The silk was thin enough that he felt the warmth of her skin beneath, the slight tension in her spine. She fit against him perfectly, moving with natural grace as the orchestra swelled into a waltz. "You know who I am," Raphael said quietly, his mouth close to her ear. "Everyone knows who you are, Mr. Santini." Her voice was steady, but he felt her pulse jump beneath his fingers. "You make sure of it, and yet you're dancing with me anyway. I'm a widow at a charity gala. Refusing to dance with the host would be rude." She met his eyes with practiced calm. "I was raised better than that. Your husband was Antonio Greco." She stiffened instantly, trying to pull back. His hand tightened at her waist, not painful, but immovable. The music continued. Other couples swirled around them in a blur of color and conversation, oblivious to the tension crackling between 2 people moving in perfect synchronization. "Let me go," she said softly. "No, you don't get to talk about him. I sent you money. You returned it." Raphael's voice dropped lower, intimate and dangerous. "Every payment. 17 in total." "Why?" Her eyes flashed with something between grief and fury. "Because money doesn't bring back the dead, Mr. Santini." And I won't let you buy absolution for whatever part you played in making me a widow. The accusation should have angered him. Instead, it kindled something worse, respect. This woman who had every reason to hate him, who'd lost everything because of the world he commanded, stood in his arms and refused to be cowed. Refused his money. Refused his implicit power. She was magnificent. I didn't kill your husband, Raphael said, each word measured in true. But my world did. That makes me responsible. I don't want your guilt. What do you want, Ariana? The question hung between them, heavy with implications neither acknowledged. Her name on his lips felt intimate, a claiming she hadn't granted permission for. She searched his face as if trying to decode a language she'd never learned, suspicion warring with something else. Something that looked dangerously like curiosity. I want to finish this dance and never see you again. Raphael smiled then, slow and devastating. No, you don't. Your arrogance is earned. He spun her smoothly, bringing her back against his chest with practiced control. And not arrogance if it's truth. You feel this too. I feel nothing. But her breathing had changed. Her pupils dilated. The hand resting on his shoulder trembled almost imperceptibly before she steadied it. Raphael catalogued every micro-expression, every tell. He'd built an empire reading people, identifying weaknesses, exploiting leverage. This wasn't that. This was something else entirely. This was primal. The music ended. The moment stretched. Other couples separated, applauding politely, but Raphael and Ariana remained locked together, neither willing to be the first to break. One dinner, he said. No. One conversation. We're conversing now. Without an audience. His thumb traced a small circle against her spine, feeling the sharp inhale she tried to hide. Give me 1 hour, Ariana. If you still want nothing to do with me after that, I'll disappear from your life completely. You're not a man who disappears. For you, I would. The sincerity in those words surprised them both. Raphael meant it with a certainty that bypassed logic. He'd never made promises to women beyond the transactional. Never offered anything resembling vulnerability. This woman he'd known for mere minutes had already altered calculations he'd thought immutable. Ariana studied him with those penetrating hazel eyes, looking for the lie, the angle, the manipulation. She wouldn't find it. Whatever this was between them, dangerous, impossible, magnetically inevitable, it was honest. 1 hour, she finally agreed. In public. Daytime. Tomorrow. Noon. I'll send a car. I'll meet you. She extracted herself from his arms with deliberate grace, smoothing the emerald silk. Where? He told her. She nodded once, then turned and walked away without looking back. Raphael watched her go, tracking the sway of her hips, the proud set of her shoulders, the way other men's eyes followed her departure with appreciation they'd never dare act on. Not while she was his. The possessive thought should have alarmed him. Instead, it settled into his bones like recognition. Later that night, Raphael stood in his penthouse overlooking the city's glittering sprawl, a fresh scotch in hand and Ariana Greco occupying every corner of his mind. Marco had delivered a comprehensive file within hours, he always did. Raphael read it with the focused intensity he applied to all intelligence, absorbing details that painted a picture of resilience and quiet strength. Born and raised in Boston's North End. Scholarship to BU, degree in art history. Married Antonio at 23 in a small ceremony her traditional parents had reluctantly blessed. Widowed at 26. No children. Worked now at a museum, cataloging acquisitions and leading tours. Lived in a modest apartment in the South End. No criminal record. No debts. No connections to any families. Clean. Except for the husband she'd loved and lost because of Raphael's world. He should leave her alone. The smart play, the safe play, was to honor his promise, give her the hour tomorrow, accept her inevitable rejection, and move on. Raphael had never lacked for female companionship. Beautiful, willing, uncomplicated women who understood the arrangement and expected nothing beyond expensive gifts and temporary attention. Ariana Greco was complicated. Dangerous. She looked at him with eyes that had seen grief and somehow remained unbroken. She challenged him, refused him, made him feel something beyond the cold satisfaction of power and control. He wanted her with an intensity that defied reason. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, the restaurant you suggested requires reservations weeks in advance. Pick somewhere else, or I'm choosing asterisk. Raphael smiled at the screen. She'd gotten his private number somehow. Probably from the gala's organizer who'd crumble under the slightest pressure from Ariana Greco's direct gaze. The fact that she'd texted rather than called told him she was maintaining distance, keeping control. He typed back, "I own the restaurant. Noon. Don't be late, asterisk." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Arrogant. Accurate, he replied. "Sleep well, Ariana." No response came, but he imagined her staring at her phone, wrestling with the same magnetic pull that had him standing at floor-to-ceiling windows at midnight, tracking city lights and thinking about hazel eyes. The next morning, Raphael did something he hadn't done in 15 years. He personally prepared for a meeting. Not his assistant. Not his staff. He selected the charcoal suit himself, the deep blue shirt that made his dark eyes appear almost black, the watch that cost more than most people's yearly salary. Details mattered. Presentation was armor and weapon simultaneously. But beneath the careful preparation, something else hummed. Anticipation. The kind he'd felt before a territorial war, before high-stakes negotiations that would reshape power structures. Except this wasn't business. This was infinitely more dangerous. The restaurant was closed to the public when he arrived 30 minutes early. The staff moved with efficient silence, preparing a private table by the window overlooking the harbor. Spring sunlight poured through glass, turning water to diamonds. Raphael sat with his back to the wall, always, and waited. She arrived at 11:58, because of course she did. Punctual but not eager. Ariana wore a simple cream blouse and tailored navy pants that somehow looked more elegant than last night's designer gown. Her hair was down now, dark waves framing her face. Minimal makeup. A small gold pendant at her throat, her only jewelry. Raphael stood immediately, an ingrained courtesy his mother had beaten into him before the world had beaten everything else out. Their eyes met across the empty restaurant, and that same electric current arced between them. "You really do own it," Ariana said as she approached, taking in the closed dining room, the staff waiting at attention. "I don't make empty claims." He pulled out her chair. "Thank you for coming." She sat with graceful wariness, like a bird prepared for flight. "You promised 1 hour. I'm timing it. Then we shouldn't waste a moment." Raphael settled across from her, waving away the sommelier. "Tell me about the museum." Surprise flickered across her features. "That's what you want to talk about? I want to know you." The museum seems a good place to start. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, recalibrating expectations. Then slowly she began to talk. About Renaissance paintings and marble sculptures. About the thrill of authentication and the satisfaction of connecting modern viewers with ancient artistry. Her hands moved as she spoke, graceful and expressive. Her face lit with genuine passion. Raphael listened with absolute focus, asking questions that proved he was actually hearing her, not just waiting for his turn to speak. He watched the way her guard lowered incrementally, the way she forgot to maintain defensive distance when discussing a recent Caravaggio acquisition. Somewhere between the appetizer and main course, the conversation shifted. Became reciprocal. She asked about his businesses, the legitimate ones, and he answered with surprising honesty. Shipping, real estate, import-export. The empire he'd built from his father's brutal legacy, refined into something that could withstand daylight scrutiny. "You're not what I expected," Ariana admitted, setting down her wine glass. "What did you expect?" "A monster." She said it simply, without malice. Someone who'd laugh about what happened to Antonio, who'd treat this like a game or a conquest. Raphael's expression went carefully neutral. "Is that what you think I am? A monster? I don't know what you are." She met his eyes directly. "That's the problem. You're charming and intelligent, and you actually listen when I talk about art. But you're also—" She gestured vaguely, encompassing everything unsaid. "You. And who am I, Ariana? Dangerous. Powerful. Someone who lives in a world where people die in crossfire and widows get blood money they didn't ask for." Her voice remained steady, but he saw the old grief flicker across her face. "I can't forget that. I won't. I'm not asking you to forget." Raphael leaned forward, close enough that she could see the absolute sincerity in his eyes. "I'm asking you to see beyond it. To see me. Not the name or the reputation or the past. Just me." "Why?" "Because from the moment you looked at me last night, everything changed." He said it like confession, like truth, like inevitability. "I've lived 38 years without feeling this. I'm not walking away from it. From you." Ariana's breath caught. "You don't even know me. Then let me." His hand moved across the table, palm up, an offering. Keep having dinner with me. Let me take you to galleries and museums. Let me prove that I'm more than the worst thing my world has done. She stared at his hand like it might burn her. This is insane. Yes. You could be anyone. Date anyone. I don't want anyone. Raphael's voice dropped to intimate certainty. I want you. The declaration hung between them, raw and undeniable. Ariana's eyes glistened, emotions warring across her expressive face. Fear. Interest. Grief. Desire. The complicated tangle of a woman smart enough to know better, but human enough to want anyway. I need to think, she whispered. Take all the time you need. He didn't pull his hand back. But know this, I'm a patient man when it matters. And you matter, Ariana. More than anything has mattered in a very long time. She placed her hand in his then, just for a moment. Palm to palm. The contact seared through him like lightning, like recognition, like coming home to a place he'd never known existed. Then she withdrew, gathered her purse, and stood. Thank you for lunch. Can I see you again? I'll let you know. She walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. Raphael, his name on her lips. Finally. Yes. This can't be what I think it is. What do you think it is? Something that will ruin us both. Raphael smiled, slow and devastating. Probably. Is that a no? A tiny smile ghosted across her mouth. It's a I'll let you know. Then she was gone, leaving him in an empty restaurant with a racing heart and the absolute certainty that Ariana Greco was going to change everything. 3 days of silence followed. 3 days where Raphael conducted business with mechanical efficiency while his mind tracked a woman who'd somehow become essential. He didn't push. Didn't send flowers or gifts or the grand gestures his wealth made effortless. She'd asked for space, so he gave it, even as every instinct screamed to claim what he knew belonged to him. On the 4th day, his phone rang. Unknown number. It's Ariana. Just hearing her voice sent satisfaction through him. I was beginning to think you'd decided against calling. I almost didn't. A pause, filled with audible hesitation. There's a gallery opening tomorrow night. Contemporary Italian artists. I have to attend for work, and Another pause. Would you want to come? What time should I pick you up? I'll meet you there. Raphael smiled. Still maintaining independence, still refusing to make it easy. Text me the address. I'll be there. Raphael. Her voice softened slightly. Don't make a spectacle. It's for work. I'll be the soul of discretion. Her quiet laugh surprised them both. Somehow I doubt that. But thank you. The gallery opening was exactly the kind of event Raphael normally avoided. Crowded, pretentious, full of people performing culture rather than appreciating it. But Ariana was there, moving through the space with professional grace, discussing pieces with patrons and artists alike. She wore black this time, simple and elegant, her hair swept back to reveal delicate pearl earrings. Raphael watched from across the room, content to observe. He saw how naturally she inhabited this world, how her knowledge and passion made people lean in, engaged. He saw also how other men noticed her, the appreciative glances, the too long conversations, the careful proximity. One man in particular, mid-30s, expensive suit, confident posture. Marco's murmured intelligence identified him as Daniel Rothstein, venture capitalist, recently divorced, known for collecting both art and beautiful women. Raphael's hands clenched as Rothstein laughed at something Ariana said, his hand settling briefly on her lower back in a gesture far too familiar. She stepped away politely, but Rothstein followed. Persistent. Presumptuous. Putting his hand on her arm now, leaning close to whisper something that made Ariana's polite smile tighten into discomfort. Raphael moved. He crossed the gallery floor with predatory purpose, arriving at Ariana's side just as Rothstein was suggesting they continue their fascinating conversation over dinner. Raphael's hand settled at the small of Ariana's back, exactly where Rothstein's had been, with possessive certainty. I'm afraid she has plans, Raphael said quietly, his tone pleasant and absolutely lethal. Rothstein's eyes widened in recognition. Mr. Santini, I didn't realize you were. We were just discussing the Moretti collection. I'm sure it was riveting. Raphael's smile didn't reach his eyes. But as I said, she has plans. The dismissal was absolute. Rothstein stammered something about seeing them later and disappeared into the crowd with almost comical speed. Raphael felt Ariana stiffen under his hand. I can handle unwanted attention myself, she said quietly. I know you can. He didn't remove his hand. That doesn't mean you should have to. She turned to face him fully, creating just enough distance to be proper, but not enough to dislodge his touch. You can't just assert ownership, Raphael. That's not how this works. Then tell me how it works. His voice dropped low, meant only for her. Tell me you didn't feel relief when I interrupted. Tell me you wanted to keep entertaining his advances. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. Raphael's eyes held hers with intensity that made her breath catch. I don't share, Ariana. Not your time, not your attention, not the space you occupy in a room. If that's a problem, tell me now. You sound insane. I sound honest. His thumb traced a small circle against her spine through the fabric. I told you what you were walking into. I'm not a man who does anything halfway. Ariana's lips parted, a flush creeping up her throat. We've had one lunch. And yet here we are. He leaned fractionally closer, close enough to catch Jasmine and something uniquely her. Tell me to leave, and I will. Tell me you don't feel this same pull, and I'll walk away right now. But don't lie to yourself about what's happening between us. The charged moment stretched. Around them, the gallery hummed with conversation and clinking glasses, oblivious to the silent war being waged between two people who couldn't seem to exist in the same space without gravity shifting. I can't do this, Ariana whispered finally. This is too much. I know. Raphael's hand slid from her back, giving her the space she'd requested even as everything in him screamed to hold tighter. But I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to. Directly. No hedging, no ambiguity. If you want me gone, say the words. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I can't. Can't want me gone or can't say the words? Both. Neither. I don't know. Frustration and confusion warred in her expression. You confuse everything, Raphael. I came here tonight expecting a pleasant work event, and instead I can't think about anything except how your hand fell on my back, and how wrong that is, and how much I want it anyway. The admission clearly cost her. Raphael felt triumph and tenderness war in his chest. There's nothing wrong with wanting this, he said gently. With wanting me. You're wrong about that. But even as she said it, she swayed slightly toward him, an unconscious movement that betrayed her words. Everything about this is wrong. You're everything I should avoid. Everything that's already cost me so much. I'm not him. Raphael's voice hardened slightly. I'm not your husband, and I'm not the man who killed him. I'm just someone who saw you across a room and knew nothing would be the same. That's terrifying. Yes. He allowed himself to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. But true. We can fight it, Ariana. Pretend we don't feel it. Walk away and spend our lives wondering what if. Or we can be brave enough to see where this goes. She closed her eyes, leaning infinitesimally into his touch. When she opened them again, they glistened with unshed tears and something that looked like surrender. One more dinner. One more, he agreed, though they both knew it was a lie. There would be more dinners. More moments. More of this dangerous, inevitable pull. Not your restaurant. Somewhere normal. Where you're not in control of everything. Raphael smiled. I'm always in control of everything. But I'll let you pick the place. Tomorrow night. 7 o'clock. There's a small Italian place in the North End, Lucia's. Do you know it? He knew it. Old neighborhood spot, family-owned, red sauce and checkered tablecloths. The kind of place that would never make it into a guidebook, but served the best carbonara in the city. His mother used to take him there, back when she was still alive, and he was still someone who could sit in restaurants without calculating exit routes. I'll be there, Raphael said. And Ariana, when other men look at you the way Rothstein did tonight, remember that you're mine. Even if you haven't fully accepted it yet. He released her then, stepping back before she could protest the possessive claim. Let her wrestle with it tonight. Let her lie awake thinking about what it meant to belong to someone like him. She would. He knew it bone deep. Raphael left the gallery without looking back, but he felt her eyes on him the entire way to the door. The next evening, Raphael arrived at Lucia's at 6:45. Early enough to survey the space, late enough to avoid appearing too eager. The restaurant was exactly as he remembered. Cramped tables covered in red-checked cloth, walls plastered with photos of regulars and celebrities who'd visited over 40 years, the air thick with garlic and tomatoes and basil. Mrs. Lucia herself appeared from the kitchen, wiping flour-dusted hands on her apron. Her eyes widened in recognition, then softened with something like maternal affection. Raffaellino. She pulled him into a hug that smelled of bread dough and nostalgia. Madonna, how long has it been? Too long, Mrs. Lucia. He kissed both her cheeks. The place looks exactly the same. Why change perfection? She swatted his arm affectionately, then studied him with knowing eyes. You're here for a woman. I can tell. Who is she? Someone special. Special enough to bring to my restaurant instead of those fancy places you probably own? She picked it. But yes. Special enough for anything. Mrs. Lucia's weathered face creased into a wide smile. Then I'll make sure everything is perfect. The corner table, yes? Privacy. Perfect. Ariana arrived at precisely 7, and Raphael's breath caught despite himself. She wore a soft rose-colored dress that skimmed her curves, her hair loose around her shoulders, minimal makeup highlighting rather than masking natural beauty. She looked softer tonight, more vulnerable, like she'd decided to let him see beyond the armor. Mrs. Lucia intercepted her at the door, immediately enveloping her in the same enthusiastic embrace. Raphael watched Ariana's surprise melt into warm laughter as the older woman chattered in rapid Italian, gesturing emphatically toward the corner table where he waited. She says I'm too skinny and you're too serious. Ariana translated as she approached, her smile genuine. And that we'll both leave here properly fed. Mrs. Lucia has opinions about everything. Raphael held her chair. Fair warning, we won't see a menu. She'll just bring food until we physically can't eat anymore. That sounds perfect. Ariana settled into her seat, looking around the cozy space with visible appreciation. This place is wonderful. How did you know about it? My mother used to bring me here. Before. He trailed off, old grief flickering briefly. Before she died. I was 14. Raphael said it simply, a fact delivered without seeking sympathy. Mrs. Lucia fed me weekly after that, kept me from forgetting where I came from, even as everything else changed. Ariana's expression softened. I'm sorry. Losing a parent that young shapes you. He met her eyes directly. Like losing a husband at 26 shapes you. We've both survived grief, Ariana. Maybe that's why this feels. He gestured between them, searching for adequate words. Inevitable, she supplied quietly. Yes. Wine arrived, poured by Mrs. Lucia herself with dramatic flair and whispered Italian that made Ariana blush. Then came antipasti, marinated vegetables, creamy burrata, paper-thin prosciutto. They ate and talked, conversation flowing easier now. She told him about growing up in the North End, about her parents who'd emigrated from Sicily with nothing but work ethic and hope, about meeting Antonio at a cousin's wedding, about the 5 years they'd had together before everything ended. Raphael listened, filing away every detail, learning her. He shared pieces of himself in return. Carefully curated truths about the brother who died young, the father whose brutal legacy he'd had to surpass or be destroyed by, about building something that could survive in daylight, even as he commanded shadows. Can I ask you something? Ariana said over the main course. Perfect carbonara, just like he remembered. Anything. Why me? I'm serious, Raphael. You could have anyone. Models, socialites, women with connections that could benefit your business. Why pursue someone who has every reason to hate you? He set down his fork, giving the question the weight it deserved. Because you looked at me like I was just a man. Not a title, not a bank account, not a reputation. Just me. Flawed and dangerous and trying desperately to be better than the world that made me. He paused, then continued with raw honesty. And because when I'm near you, I remember what it feels like to want something I can't take. To have to earn something instead of commanding it. You make me human again. Tears shimmered in her eyes. That's a lot of pressure. I'm not asking you to fix me, Ariana. Just to let me try to deserve you. What if you can't? Then you walk away, and I'll live with it. The lie tasted bitter. He'd never let her walk away. Not now. Not after touching this, tasting this, knowing what it felt like to be seen. But give me the chance to try. She reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. The contact sent electricity through him. Simple touch made profound by permission. I'm terrified of this. I know. You don't do things halfway. No. Neither do I. Her fingers tightened around his. So if we do this, if I let myself fall into whatever this is, you need to promise me something. Anything. Don't lie to me. Ever. I'd rather be hurt by truth than comforted by lies. Her eyes held his with fierce intensity. Antonio kept things from me. Said he was protecting me. Then he was gone, and I was left with questions I'll never get answers to. I can't survive that again. Raphael brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that felt like vow. I promise you honesty, Ariana. Even when it's hard. Even when you won't like what you hear. No lies. Not between us. Okay. She breathed out shakily. Okay. They left Lucia's hours later, stuffed with food and wine, and the heady feeling of possibility. Raphael walked Ariana to her car, autumn night air crisp around them. She turned to face him under a streetlight, amber glow painting her skin gold. Thank you for tonight, she said softly. Thank you for giving me a chance. She rose on her toes, pressing a brief kiss to his cheek that seared like a brand. Good night, Raphael. He caught her hand as she started to pull away, tugging her back gently. One more thing. What? This. He cupped her face in both hands and kissed her properly. Slowly, deeply, pouring weeks of wanting and restraint into the connection of lips and breath and racing hearts. She melted against him with a soft sound that destroyed and rebuilt him simultaneously. Her hands fisted in his jacket, holding on like he was gravity itself. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Raphael rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since the moment I saw you. Me too, she admitted breathlessly. God help me too. He kissed her once more, quick and possessive, then stepped back before his control shattered completely. I'll call you tomorrow. You better. Raphael watched her drive away, memorizing taillights disappearing into traffic. Only when she was completely gone did he allow the fierce smile of satisfaction to cross his face. She was his now. She just didn't fully know it yet. But she would. The following weeks unfolded with dangerous momentum. Raphael courted Ariana with single-minded intensity tempered by careful patience. Private dinners became gallery visits, became Sunday mornings at farmers' markets where he carried her bags and learned which vendors she favored. He memorized her coffee order, oat milk latte, extra shot, no sugar. Discovered she hummed while examining paintings, unconscious and endearing. Learned that she slept poorly on stormy nights, leftover anxiety from the night Antonio died. He gave her pieces of himself in return. Showed her the community center his mother had volunteered at, now funded entirely by his legitimate businesses. Took her to his brother's grave and spoke about Marco. The real Marco, not his consigliera, but the younger brother who died at 19 from an overdose Raphael had been too busy building power to prevent. I failed him, Raphael said quietly, staring at marble etched with his brother's name. Got so focused on securing our future that I didn't see him drowning in the present. Ariana's hand found his, fingers lacing together. You were barely older than he was. That's not failure. That's being human and overwhelmed and doing your best. My best got him killed. No. She turned him to face her, fierce and certain. Addiction killed him. A world that breaks people killed him. You were a kid trying to survive the same world. Don't carry guilt that isn't yours. Something cracked in Raphael's chest. He pulled her against him, breathing in jasmine and acceptance, letting her hold pieces he'd thought beyond repair. But even as they grew closer, shadows gathered. Raphael's world didn't pause for romance. Business continued. Meetings that ran late, calls he had to take, moments where she'd see the hard man who commanded empires flash across his features before warmth returned. She never asked about the details. Honored the line between his worlds with careful respect. But he felt her watching sometimes, weighing, calculating whether the man she was falling for could coexist with the one who made people disappear with a word. 2 months in, it came to a head. They'd planned dinner at his penthouse, private, intimate, a step forward in the careful dance they'd been performing. Ariana arrived at 7 with wine and nervous energy. Raphael kissed her thoroughly at the door, then led her to the kitchen where he'd already started dinner. You cook? Surprise colored her voice. Mrs. Lucia taught me. He poured wine with easy grace. Said any man who couldn't feed himself was only half alive. Sit. Let me impress you. She perched on a bar stool, watching him move through the space with unconscious competence. They talked while he cooked, braised short ribs, roasted vegetables, risotto that required constant attention. Easy conversation about her week, an acquisition she was excited about, his thoughts on expanding the community center. Normal. Domestic. Perfect. Until his phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Third time with a specific pattern that meant emergency. Raphael's expression shuddered instantly. I need to take this. Of course. But Ariana's eyes clouded with understanding. This was it. The intrusion of his other life into the careful bubble they'd built. He stepped into his office, closing the door. 10 minutes later, when he emerged, the easy warmth had been replaced by cold calculation she'd only glimpsed before. "I have to leave," he said tersely. "Something's come up that requires my immediate attention." "How immediate?" "Now." Ariana set down her wine carefully. "What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about." His tone was dismissive, protective, and it landed wrong. "Don't do that." She stood, crossing to him. "Don't shut me out like I'm fragile or stupid or can't handle whatever this is." "Ariana." "No. You promised me honesty, Raphael. So be honest. What happened that's pulling you away?" His jaw clenched. "A situation. In the port. One of my shipments was intercepted. There are complications that require handling." "What kind of complications?" "The kind that are my business, not yours." The words came out harder than intended. He saw her flinch, saw hurt flash across her face before pride locked it down. "Right." She grabbed her purse. "I should go." "Ariana, wait." "No, you're right. It's your business." Her voice was carefully controlled, each word wrapped in ice. "I was foolish to think I could exist in your world without confronting what that actually means." "That's not fair." "Fair." She laughed bitterly. "You're leaving in the middle of dinner to deal with God knows what. Probably something illegal. Definitely something dangerous. And I'm supposed to just, what? Sit here and wait for you to come back? Hope you come back." Raphael crossed to her in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders. "I will always come back to you." "You can't promise that." Her composure cracked, tears threatening. "Antonio probably thought he'd come home too." "Life doesn't work on promises, Raphael. Not in your world." The truth of that hit like a physical blow. He'd been arrogant to think he could keep her separate, could protect her from the reality of who and what he was. She deserved better than compartmentalized affection. But giving her more meant risking her. "I need to go," he said quietly. "But we're not done talking about this." "Maybe we are." She pulled away from his grip. "Maybe I've been kidding myself that this could work." "Don't." The single word came out commanding, desperate. "Don't run because you're scared." "I'm not running. I'm being realistic." But her voice wavered. "You live in a world where people die and shipments get intercepted, and you have to drop everything to handle things. I can't compete with that, Raphael. I can't be second to whatever this is." "You're not second. You're first. Always." He cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "But I can't walk away from responsibilities tonight because it's inconvenient. People depend on me. Not just for business, for their families, their futures, their lives. I need to handle this so it doesn't become something worse." "Then go handle it." She stepped back, breaking contact. "I'll see myself out." "Ariana." "Go." She moved toward the elevator. "Your empire's calling." Raphael watched her leave, every instinct screaming to follow, to fix this, to make her understand. But Marco was waiting downstairs with a car and news that couldn't wait. Someone had made a move against his operations. A test. A provocation. It required his immediate presence and undivided attention. He'd have to choose. Handle the crisis and hope Ariana would forgive him. Or chase her now and risk everything he'd built. There was no choice. Not really. Raphael grabbed his jacket and followed Marco into the night, calling Ariana's phone as he moved. It went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result. Blocked. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. She'd blocked his number. Cut him off completely. Fear and fury warred in his chest as the car sped toward the waterfront, toward whatever mess waited there. He'd fix the business problem. Then he'd fix them. She didn't get to walk away. They didn't get to be over because she was scared of caring too much. The night stretched long and brutal. What should have been a quick meeting became hours of negotiations, threats delivered with velvet politeness, the careful choreography of power that kept empires from collapsing into war. By the time Raphael returned to his penthouse, dawn was breaking over the city and exhaustion pulled at his bones. He tried Ariana's number again. Still blocked. Plan B. He texted Marco. Find out where she is. Don't approach. Just location, asterisk. The response came back within 20 minutes. Museum. Started her shift an hour ago, asterisk. Raphael showered, changed, and arrived at the museum at 10 a.m. with dark circles under his eyes and determination in every line of his body. He found her in the Renaissance wing, giving a tour to a small group of elderly patrons. She glowed when she taught, passion and knowledge transforming her into something luminous. She saw him. Froze mid-sentence. Recovered with professional grace, but he caught the flash of panic in her eyes. He waited, leaned against a pillar like he had all the time in the world, arms crossed, watching her finish the tour with divided attention. When the patrons finally dispersed with grateful thanks, Ariana approached with squared shoulders and raised chin. "You can't be here," she said quietly. "I can be anywhere I want. I'm a generous museum patron." He pushed off the pillar. "But I'm here for you. Raphael, you blocked my number." "Yes." "Unblock it." "No." She glanced around nervously, aware of other staff, of visitors drifting through galleries. "You need to leave. Not until we talk." He kept his voice low but implacable. "I'm sorry about last night. I'm sorry I had to leave. But I'm not sorry for who I am or what I do, Ariana. And I won't apologize for handling my responsibilities. I'm not asking you to." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I'm asking you to understand that I can't do this. I can't fall in love with someone whose life is constantly interrupted by danger and secrets and things I can't know about. I already lost one husband to your world. I won't survive losing you too. You love me." He said it like discovery, like triumph. "That's what you focus on." She laughed wetly. "Not the part where I'm trying to protect myself." "You love me," Raphael repeated, stepping closer. "Say it again. Actually say the words." "No. Coward." Her hand cracked across his face before either of them registered the movement. The slap echoed through the gallery. Nearby visitors gasped. A security guard started toward them. Raphael barely felt the sting. He caught her wrist gently, tugging her closer even as she struggled. "Say it. I hate you. Liar. You're impossible. Say it." His free hand cupped her face, thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped. "Tell me you love me, Ariana. Give me that much truth before you run." "I love you." The words broke free like confession, like surrender, like agony. "I love you and it terrifies me and I can't do this, Raphael. I can't." He kissed her then, fierce and claiming, in the middle of the Renaissance wing with tourists watching and security approaching. Kissed her like he was drowning and she was air. Kissed her until she melted against him with a sob that tasted like salt and surrender. "I love you too," he murmured against her lips. "And I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not ever. You want to protect yourself? Fine. Let me protect you instead." "Sir?" The security guard's hand touched Raphael's shoulder. "I'm going to need you to." Raphael turned his head slightly, and whatever the guard saw in his eyes made the man step back, hands raised. "We're leaving," Raphael said calmly. "Ms. Greco is taking an early lunch." "I am not." "Yes, you are." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "We're going somewhere private, and you're going to yell at me or cry or whatever you need to do. Then we're going to figure this out together. No running. No blocking numbers. Honest conversation like I promised you." Ariana looked at their joined hands, at his determined face, at the wreckage of her careful walls scattered across marble floors. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." He led her out of the museum into autumn sunlight, into his waiting car, into the dangerous possibility of actually making this work. They ended up back at his penthouse. Safer than her apartment, more private than anywhere public. Ariana paced his living room while Raphael watched from the couch, letting her process, giving her space to find words. "I watched Antonio leave for work one morning," she finally said, voice hollow with memory. "Kissed him goodbye. Told him I'd make his favorite dinner. 3 hours later, police were at my door telling me he was dead. Just gone. No warning. No goodbye. Nothing." Raphael's hands clenched, but he stayed quiet. They said wrong place, wrong time. Collateral damage. Like his life didn't matter because he wasn't the target. She turned to face him, mascara smudged, beautiful and broken. "I can't go through that again, Raphael. I physically cannot survive loving someone and waiting for the call that says they're not coming home. I understand." "No, you don't." The words exploded out. "You can't understand because you're the one who causes those calls. You're the reason women become widows and children lose fathers. You're the danger, Raphael, not the victim of it. And I'm trying to love you anyway, and it's destroying me." The accusation hung between them, brutal and true. Raphael stood slowly, crossing to her with measured steps. She didn't back away. "You're right," he said simply. "I am the danger. I've made choices that have cost lives. Built power on foundations you'd find horrifying. And I can't change my past, Ariana. Can't undo the things I've done or the world I come from. Then we have nothing else to say. But I can change my future." He caught her hands, holding tight when she tried to pull away. I can make different choices. Build something better. Keep you so far from the darkness that it never touches you. You can't promise that. I can try. And I will. His eyes burned with intensity that stole her breath. I'll step back from operations. Let Marco handle the dangerous parts. Focus on the legitimate businesses, the community work, the things that exist in daylight. Whatever it takes to make you feel safe. Ariana stared at him. You do that? Give up control. For you? Yes. No hesitation. Pure truth. I'd give up everything for you. That's insane. Probably. A hint of a smile touched his mouth. But you make me insane, Ariana. Make me want to be better than I am. Deserve the way you look at me. I love you. Completely. Irrevocably. And I will do whatever it takes to prove you can trust this. Trust me. She searched his face, looking for the lie, the angle. Found only raw honesty and a vulnerability he'd never shown anyone. I'm still terrified, she whispered. I know. He pulled her into his arms, tucking her head under his chin. But be terrified with me. Not without me. Let me earn your trust back. How? However long it takes. Whatever you need. His lips pressed against her hair. I'm not going anywhere, Ariana. You're stuck with me. She melted into him then, letting exhaustion and emotion and love win over fear. They stood like that for long minutes, just holding each other, hearts beating in synchronization. Okay, she finally murmured into his chest. Okay. Okay, you'll give me another chance? Okay, I'll try. She pulled back enough to see his face. But you have to actually follow through, Raphael. No more disappearing in the middle of dinner. No more secrets. If something happens, you tell me. Even if it scares me. I promise. He sealed it with a kiss, soft and reverent. No more secrets between us. It was a promise that would be tested sooner than either of them knew. The weeks that followed felt like building something new from scorched earth. Raphael kept his word. Delegated more, came home earlier, made Ariana his priority in ways that visibly shifted the power structure around him. Marco raised eyebrows but said nothing. The old guard muttered about weakness. Raphael didn't care. He had something worth more than power now. He had her. They fell into rhythms. Weekend mornings at her apartment where Raphael learned to be still, to exist without always moving, planning, controlling. Evenings at his penthouse where Ariana gradually left pieces of herself. A toothbrush, spare clothes, the thriller she was reading. Small invasions that felt like belonging. He took her to Boston Symphony. She dragged him to street festivals. They cooked together, argued over movies, made love with increasing urgency and tenderness until the lines between sex and worship blurred beyond distinction. Raphael had never been happier. Had never known happiness could feel like this. Simple and profound, ordinary and extraordinary, a constant hum of rightness beneath every moment. Which was, of course, when everything shattered. 3 months into their careful reconstruction, Raphael's past came calling. He was in a meeting, legitimate business, completely above board, when Marco appeared in the doorway with an expression that made Raphael's blood run cold. We need to talk. Now. Raphael excused himself, following Marco into a private office. The moment the door closed, Marco's composure cracked. There's been a development. About the Greco hit. Raphael's world tilted. What? We got new intelligence. Antonio Greco wasn't collateral damage. Marco's voice was carefully neutral. He was the target. That's impossible. The shooter was aiming for Antonio. It was a hit. Clean. Professional. Marco pulled out a tablet, showing Raphael reports he'd never seen. Someone wanted him dead and made it look like wrong place, wrong time to avoid retaliation. Raphael's mind raced, pieces clicking together with sickening clarity. Who ordered it? Still tracking that down. But Raphael. Marco hesitated, which was never good. The intel suggests the hit had family approval. Someone in our organization. Find out who. The words came out dead calm. I want names. Evidence. Everything. Already on it. Marco paused. Are you going to tell her? The question landed like a bomb. Tell Ariana that her husband's death wasn't random? That someone Raphael knew, possibly commanded, had deliberately murdered the man she loved? Yes. The word tasted like ash. She deserves the truth. It might destroy you both. I know. Raphael's hands clenched. But I promised her honesty. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. He found her that evening at the museum, closing up after a late event. She smiled when she saw him. Easy and genuine and completely unsuspecting. Hey you. This is a nice surprise. She kissed him briefly. Let me grab my stuff and we can, Raphael. What's wrong? He must have looked as wrecked as he felt. We need to talk. Concern flooded her expression. Okay, what happened? Not here. He took her hand, needing the contact. Come home with me. Please. The drive to his penthouse was silent and awful. Ariana's worry built visibly, but she didn't push. Just held his hand and waited. Trusting. God, this was going to destroy that trust. Once inside, Raphael poured them both whiskey he knew neither would drink. Sat across from her on the couch and forced himself to meet her eyes. I found out something today. About Antonio. Her face went pale. What about him? His death wasn't an accident. The words came out flat, factual, each one a knife. He wasn't collateral damage. He was targeted. It was a hit, Ariana. Someone wanted him dead. She stared at him, incomprehension slowly morphing into horror. That can't be right. They told me. They lied. Or they didn't know. But new intelligence confirms it. Raphael's voice remained steady through sheer force of will. I'm still finding out who ordered it, but it came from within my organization. Someone I know. Possibly someone I command. The implications crashed over her in visible waves. Her breathing went shallow. Whiskey sloshed as her hands started shaking. You're telling me, her voice broke, that someone you know murdered my husband? Yes. And you didn't know? I swear to you I didn't know. If I had. What? She stood abruptly, pacing. What would you have done, Raphael? Stopped it? Punished them? Or is this just business as usual in your world? I would have stopped it. He stood too, desperate to make her understand. Antonio was innocent. He didn't deserve. None of them deserve it. She whirled on him, tears streaming now. None of the people who die in your world deserve it. But they die anyway because men like you play God with other people's lives. Ariana. No. She held up a hand, stopping him. You promised me truth. So here's mine. I can't do this. I can't love someone whose world killed my husband. Can't wake up next to you knowing that every day, somewhere, someone is planning violence in your name. I can't. Please. The words scraped out of him, raw and desperate. Don't do this. Don't let them destroy us too. They already have. Her voice rose to a scream. Don't you see? The moment you told me the truth, it was over. Because I can't unknow it, Raphael. Can't pretend it doesn't matter. You're connected to the worst thing that ever happened to me, and I'm supposed to just, what? Get over it. Raphael felt everything crumbling, felt her slipping away like water through fingers. I love you. I love you too. Fresh tears carved tracks through makeup. God help me, I do. But love isn't enough. It was never going to be enough. She grabbed her purse, moving toward the elevator. Raphael followed, panic clawing at his chest. Where are you going? Away from you. Away from this. She jabbed the elevator button repeatedly. I need space to think. To process. To figure out if there's any version of reality where we make sense. And if there's not, the elevator arrived. She stepped inside, turning to face him with devastation written across every feature. Then I guess we were a beautiful disaster from the start. The doors closed on her broken expression, and Raphael was left alone in the penthouse that suddenly felt enormous and empty. He'd lost her. The truth he'd promised her, the honesty he'd sworn to maintain, had destroyed them exactly as she'd feared. Raphael stood frozen, staring at closed elevator doors, feeling something crack in his chest that had never broken before. Then rage followed grief. Hot and consuming and absolutely focused. Someone had done this. Someone had murdered an innocent man and destroyed any chance Raphael had at happiness. That someone would pay. In blood. In fear. In absolute and total ruin. He pulled out his phone, voice deadly calm when Marco answered. Find out who ordered the Greco hit. I don't care what it takes or who you have to hurt. I want names by morning. Raphael. And Marco. When you find them, don't kill them. Bring them to me. I want to deliver that particular justice personally. He ended the call and poured another whiskey, settling in to wait. To plan. To let the cold fury that had built empires refocus on a single target. They'd taken Ariana from him. Now he'd take everything from them. The hunt consumed Raphael with singular intensity. Sleep became optional, food an afterthought. Everything narrowed to finding the person who'd destroyed both Antonio Greco and any future Raphael might have had with Ariana. Marco worked around the clock, calling in favors, applying pressure, following trails of money and whispered conversations that had gone cold 3 years ago. 72 hours after Ariana walked out, they had a name. Vittorio Carbone, Marco said, sliding a file across Raphael's desk. He was your father's consigliere before he retired 5 years ago. Lives in Florida now. Quiet. Keeps his head down. Raphael studied the photograph. An older man, weathered features, eyes that had seen too much. Why would he target Antonio Greco? That's where it gets complicated. Marco pulled out another document. Antonio's real name was Antonio Martinelli. He changed it legally when he married Ariana. Wanted distance from his family. What family? The Martinellis. Boston crew that tried to move into your territory 15 years ago. Your father crushed them. Killed most of the leadership, scattered the rest. Marco met Raphael's eyes steadily. Antonio's father was the boss. Died in the initial strike. His older brother survived but disappeared. Antonio was just a kid, 18, 19, completely removed from the business. Changed his name, built a clean life. The pieces assembled with horrifying clarity. Carbone found out who he really was. And saw an opportunity to finish what your father started. Eliminate the last Martinelli bloodline. Marco's voice was carefully neutral. Antonio wasn't involved in anything, Raphael. He'd been clean for over a decade. But Carbone is old school. Blood for blood, sins of the father, all that medieval bullshit. Raphael's hands clenched around the file hard enough to crease photographs. Does Ariana know about Antonio's real identity? Doubtful. The name change was legal and complete. She probably thinks Greco was always his family name. More secrets. More lies. Even dead, Antonio Greco Martinelli was coming between them. Where's Carbone now? Marco hesitated. Raphael, think about this. The man's 73 years old. Retired. Killing him won't bring Antonio back or fix things with Ariana. I'm not going to kill him. Raphael's voice was ice over steel. I'm going to make him confess. Record it. Give Ariana the full truth. Then she can decide what happens to him. That's a mistake. I don't care. Raphael stood, grabbing his jacket. Get me on a plane to Florida. Tonight. And if she still walks away after you give her the truth? Raphael paused at the door, jaw tight. Then at least I'll have given her closure. Something I should have done 3 years ago instead of sending blood money. The flight to Miami was turbulent, matching Raphael's internal state. He'd texted Ariana multiple times since she left, apologies, explanations, desperate pleas. All unanswered. He didn't know if she'd blocked him again, or was simply too hurt to respond. Either way, the silence was killing him. He tried again now, typing carefully. Asterisk, I found out who ordered the hit. Getting you answers. Please don't give up on us. Asterisk. No response. But it showed as delivered, which meant she hadn't blocked him. Small mercy. Carbone lived in a retirement community outside Fort Lauderdale. Palm trees and golf carts and seniors enjoying their golden years funded by decades of violence. Raphael found his condo easily, Marco flanking him with 2 other men who radiated quiet menace. The old man answered the door in a bathrobe, espresso in hand, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to fear in rapid succession. Don Santini. Carbone's voice wavered slightly. This is unexpected. We need to talk about Antonio Martinelli. Raphael pushed past him into the condo without waiting for invitation. The man you had killed 3 years ago. All color drained from Carbone's weathered face. I don't know what. Don't. Raphael's voice could have frozen hell. I have phone records. Financial transactions. Testimony from the shooter you hired. The only question is whether you confess willingly or I extract it the hard way. Carbone set down his espresso with shaking hands. He was a Martinelli. Blood debt. He was a civilian. Raphael stepped closer, letting the old man see death in his eyes. Changed his name. Built a clean life. Had a wife who loved him. And you murdered him to settle a 15-year-old grudge that had nothing to do with him. His father is dead. Has been dead for 15 years. You killed an innocent man, Carbone. Destroyed a widow. All for some twisted sense of loyalty to my father's vendetta. Raphael's hands clenched with effort not to wrap around the old man's throat. You're going to confess. Every detail. I'm going to record it. Then you're going to disappear so completely that even God won't find you. And if I refuse? Raphael smiled without humor. Then I'll do to you what you did to Antonio. But slower. Much slower. And I'll make sure everyone knows why. That Vittorio Carbone died screaming because he couldn't let old wars stay buried. The old man crumbled. Age and fear and the weight of his own sins collapsing his bravado. It wasn't personal. Just business. It was deeply personal to the woman he left behind. Raphael pulled out his phone, hitting record. Start talking. Carbone talked. Confessed to tracking down Antonio Martinelli through old contacts. To having him followed, learning his routines, his wife, his quiet life. To hiring a professional shooter and staging it to look like collateral damage during a port dispute. To reporting back to Raphael's father, already dying of cancer, that the Martinelli bloodline was finally extinct. Your father died happy, Carbone said bitterly, knowing all his enemies were gone. Raphael's stomach turned. His father had known, had sanctioned this, had taken the secret to his grave rather than face consequences. Is that all? Raphael asked coldly. That's everything. Carbone looked small, suddenly diminished. What now? Now you transfer every asset you have to a charity in Antonio Greco's name. Then you get on a plane to somewhere far from here, and you never come back. Raphael's eyes burned with controlled fury. If I ever see you again, if I even hear your name, I'll finish what I should have done today. Are we clear? Crystal. Good. Raphael turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. Did Antonio know? About his real family? I don't think so. He'd buried it too deep. Carbone's voice was hoarse. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Didn't know he had a wife until after. Didn't know she'd suffer. Raphael finished. Grieve? Spend 3 years thinking her husband's death was random instead of targeted? Yeah, you really should have checked that. He left before the rage won over control, before he did something he couldn't walk back. Marco and the others followed silently, leaving Carbone alone with his confession and his guilt. On the plane back to Boston, Raphael listened to the recording 3 times, memorizing every word, every detail. This was the truth Ariana deserved. The closure she needed. Whether she'd forgive Raphael's connection to it remained unclear. But at least she'd know. He texted her from the airport. *I have information about Antonio's death. The full truth. Can I see you? Please *. This time, after 15 agonizing minutes, a response came. * tomorrow. 2 p.m. The coffee shop near the museum. Don't be late. *. Relief and terror warred in his chest. She was giving him one more chance. One final opportunity to either salvage this or lose her forever. Raphael intended to make it count. The coffee shop was small and crowded, deliberately public in a way that made privacy impossible. Strategic choice on Ariana's part. Neutral ground where neither of them held power. Raphael arrived 20 minutes early anyway, securing a corner table where they could talk without being overheard. She appeared at exactly 2 o'clock, because of course she did. Punctual even in heartbreak. She looked thinner than when he'd last seen her. Shadows under her eyes suggesting sleep had been as elusive for her as for him. But she was still beautiful, achingly, devastatingly beautiful, in jeans and a sweater that made her seem younger and more vulnerable. Raphael stood as she approached. Thank you for coming. You said you had information. Her voice was carefully neutral, walls rebuilt higher than before. I'm here for that. Not for anything else. The words hurt, but he absorbed them without flinching. I understand. Can I get you coffee first? I'll get my own. She moved to the counter, ordering something complicated, giving herself time to prepare. Raphael watched her, memorizing details in case this was the last time. The way she tucked hair behind her ear. The set of her shoulders. The nervous way she twisted her grandmother's ring. She returned with a latte and sat across from him, maintaining careful distance. Talk. Raphael pulled out his phone, setting it on the table between them. I found who ordered the hit on Antonio. His name is Vittorio Carbone. He was my father's consigliere. I flew to Florida and got a full confession. Ariana stared at the phone like it might bite her. You what? I needed answers for you. Needed you to know the truth about what happened and why. He pushed the phone closer. It's all there. The recording. Every detail. But before you listen, there's something you need to know about Antonio. What about him? His real name was Antonio Martinelli. He changed it legally before you met him. Raphael watched her face carefully, seeing confusion, denial, the beginning of comprehension. His father was a mob boss. His family tried to move into my father's territory 15 years ago. My father killed most of them. Antonio survived because he was young and completely uninvolved. He built a clean life, distanced himself from that world completely. You're lying. But her voice wavered. I wish I was. Raphael pulled out documents, the legal name change, family records, everything Marco had compiled. Antonio never told you because he'd left that life behind. Wanted nothing to do with it. But Carbone found out who he really was and decided to eliminate the last Martinelli bloodline. It wasn't random, Ariana. And it wasn't your fault or his. It was one old man's twisted sense of loyalty to a dead boss's vendetta. Ariana picked up the documents with shaking hands, scanning lines that rewrote her entire history. Antonio he never said. He probably thought he was protecting you, keeping you separate from something that couldn't touch you anymore. Raphael's voice softened. He loved you, Ariana. That part was real. Everything you built together was real. The name change doesn't diminish that. Tears spilled down her cheeks silently. He lied to me. He kept a secret. There's a difference. Raphael resisted the urge to reach for her. Listen to the recording. Get the full story. Then decide what you want to do with the information. She pressed play with trembling fingers. Carbone's voice filled the small space between them. Confession, justification, the ugly details of planning and execution. Raphael watched Ariana's face cycle through emotions. Shock, grief, rage, devastation. When it ended, she sat frozen, tears streaming unchecked. He died because of who his father was, she whispered. Not because of anything he did. Just bloodline. Yes. And your father knew? Approved. According to Carbone, yes. Raphael forced himself to hold her gaze. My father was a brutal man, Ariana. I've spent 15 years trying to be better than him, build something that could survive daylight. But his sins are still mine to carry. This one especially. What did you do to Carbone? Made him transfer all his assets to a charity in Antonio's name. Told him to disappear and never come back. Raphael paused. I wanted to kill him. Every instinct screamed for blood. But that wouldn't bring Antonio back or give you real closure. So I let him live with his guilt instead. Ariana looked at him then. Really looked. Searching for something she wasn't sure existed. Why did you do this? Get the confession. Because you deserve the truth. Because I promised you honesty even when it hurt. His voice roughened with emotion. And because I love you enough to give you closure, even if it means you walk away forever. I don't know what to do with this. Fresh tears fell. I don't know how to process that Antonio lied, that your father approved his murder, that you. She gestured helplessly. That you're still connected to all of it. I know. Raphael finally allowed himself to reach across the table, covering her hand with his. She didn't pull away. And I'm not asking you to figure it out right now. Take whatever time you need. I'll wait. What if time doesn't fix it? Then I'll live with that. The lie tasted bitter. He'd never accept losing her. But he'd give her space to choose freely. But know this, Ariana. I would burn my entire empire to the ground if it meant keeping you. Would walk away from everything I've built for a life with you. That's not pressure or manipulation. Just truth. She turned her hand over, lacing their fingers together. The contact sent electricity through him. Hope, desperate and fragile. I need space, she said quietly. Real space. To grieve Antonio again. To process what he kept from me. To figure out if loving you is brave or self-destructive. How much space? I don't know. Her thumb traced circles on his palm absently. Weeks. Maybe months. I can't promise anything, Raphael. I'll wait. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. However long it takes. I'll wait. They sat like that for long minutes, hands joined across the table, hearts breaking in different directions. Then Ariana gently extracted herself, gathering the documents and Raphael's phone with the recording. Can I keep these? They're yours. Everything he had was hers. Ariana. She paused halfway to standing. Yeah. I love you. That's not going to change. Not in weeks or months or years. You're it for me. Her face crumpled briefly before she controlled it. I love you too. That's why this is so hard. Then she left, taking his heart and any hope of easy resolution with her. Raphael sat alone in the coffee shop long after she'd gone, staring at the empty chair across from him and wondering if he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. Giving her space to leave him. Letting her go when every instinct demanded he hold tighter. But real love meant letting her choose freely. Even if that choice destroyed him. The weeks that followed were the longest of Raphael's life. He threw himself into work with mechanical efficiency. Meetings, negotiations, the endless machinery of empire. But his heart wasn't in it. His heart was with a woman who needed time he wasn't sure she'd use to come back. Marco watched with concern that grew daily. You're not sleeping. Barely eating. This isn't sustainable. I'm fine. You're not. Marco set down files they both knew Raphael wasn't reading. Call her. She asked for space. So give her space. But let her know you're still here. Still waiting. Women aren't mind readers, Raphael. She knows. Does she? Marco's expression was unusually gentle. Or is she sitting in her apartment thinking you've moved on because you haven't reached out? The possibility hadn't occurred to him. Raphael pulled out his phone, staring at Ariana's contact. 3 weeks since the coffee shop. 3 weeks of silence that felt like slow death. He typed carefully. Asterisk, I know you need time. I'm giving it. But I wanted you to know I'm still here. Still waiting. Still loving you. No pressure. Just acknowledgement. Asterisk. He hit send before he could second-guess it, then set the phone face down on his desk. Couldn't watch for a response that might not come. 2 hours later, it buzzed. Asterisk, thank you. I needed to hear that. Still processing. But, thank you, asterisk. Not much. But enough. Proof she hadn't written him off completely. That she was still thinking about them, weighing options, trying to find a path forward. Raphael held on to that like a lifeline. Another month passed. Raphael continued his quiet transformation, further delegating dangerous operations, expanding legitimate businesses, increasing community outreach. Not for show, but because Ariana had made him want to be better. Even if she never came back, he owed it to her memory to actually become the man he'd promised to be. The community center named a new wing after his mother. The museum received an anonymous donation large enough to fund acquisitions for 5 years. Charities he'd never supported suddenly found themselves with generous benefactors. Raphael built a legacy that could survive daylight, brick by brick, choice by choice. And waited. On a Tuesday evening 2 months after their coffee shop meeting, his phone rang. Ariana's name on the screen made his heart stop. Hello. Hi. Her voice was soft, nervous. Is this a good time? It's always a good time for you. He set aside work immediately, giving her total focus. How are you? Better. Some days. A pause filled with audible hesitation. I've been thinking. A lot. About everything. And I miss you. The admission came out rushed, like she'd been holding it back. I miss you so much it's physically painful. Miss your voice and your hands and the way you listen when I talk about art. Miss feeling safe and cherished and like I matter more than anything. Raphael's throat tightened. You do matter more than anything. I know. I think that's what scared me most. She laughed wetly. Loving you means risking everything again. Means trusting that you won't disappear, that your world won't take you from me the way it took Antonio. I can't promise nothing will ever happen to me, Raphael said carefully. I can't guarantee perfect safety. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to come home to you. Every single day. I know. And I think. Another pause longer. I think I'm ready to try again. If you still want me. If I still, he laughed, the sound breaking with emotion. Ariana, I've spent 2 months barely functioning. Waiting for you. Building a life I hoped you'd want to share. Of course I still want you. I'll always want you. Can I see you? When? Now. Her voice was small, hopeful. I'm actually outside your building. Have been for 20 minutes trying to work up the courage to come up. Raphael was moving before conscious thought, grabbing his jacket, heading for the elevator. Stay there. I'm coming down. He found her on the sidewalk, wrapped in a coat against November cold, looking simultaneously terrified and determined. The moment their eyes met, everything else disappeared. The city sounds, the pedestrians, the entire world narrowed to this woman and this moment. Raphael crossed to her in long strides, cupping her face in both hands. You came back. I never really left. She covered his hands with hers. My heart stayed with you the whole time. He kissed her then, desperate and reverent and full of 2 months' worth of longing. She melted into him with a soft sound, arms wrapping around his neck, holding on like he was gravity itself. They stood on the sidewalk kissing like teenagers, uncaring of the audience, lost in each other. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Raphael pressed his forehead to hers. Come upstairs. Let me hold you properly. Okay. The elevator ride was silent tension, hands clasped, eyes locked. The moment they entered the penthouse, Raphael pulled her close again, just holding her, breathing her in, feeling her heart beat against his chest. I'm sorry I left, Ariana whispered into his shirt. I'm sorry I made you wait so long. Don't apologize for needing time to heal. He kissed her hair. I'd wait decades for you, Ariana. Centuries. However long it took. She pulled back enough to see his face, eyes searching. I love you. I'm terrified and probably making a huge mistake and definitely going to have moments where I panic. But I love you and I want to try this. Really try. Then we will. Raphael traced her cheekbone with his thumb. Whatever you need to feel safe will do. Therapy if you want it. More transparency about my businesses. Regular check-ins. Name it. I need you to promise something. Anything. Promise that if something happens, if you're in danger or there's trouble, you tell me immediately. Don't try to protect me by hiding it. Her eyes were fierce. I can handle the truth. I can't handle being blindsided again. I promise. He sealed it with a kiss. Complete honesty. Even when it's hard. Okay. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen in months. Then take me to bed, Raphael Santini. I've missed you. He swept her into his arms, carrying her toward the bedroom while she laughed and protested and held on tight. They made love slowly, reverently, relearning each other's bodies and hearts. Whispered promises in the dark. Traced scars, physical and emotional, with gentle fingers. Rebuilt trust through touch and vulnerability and raw honesty. Afterward, Ariana lay with her head on Raphael's chest, his arms wrapped securely around her, both of them floating in the peaceful aftermath. I went to Antonio's grave last week, she said quietly. Told him about you. About falling in love again. Raphael's hand stilled in her hair. What did you say? That I'd always love him. That he was my first great love, and nothing changes that. She tilted her head to look at Raphael. But that I'd found something else. Someone else. And I thought he'd want me to be happy instead of alone and grieving forever. Do you think he would? I think he'd have terrible taste in protective boyfriends and would probably haunt you for being in the business he tried to escape. She smiled sadly. But yeah, I think he'd want me to live. To love. To not let his death define my entire future. Raphael kissed her forehead. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for understanding that he's still part of my story. That I'm not erasing him by loving you. You're not erasing him. You're honoring him by refusing to let grief consume you. Raphael tightened his arms around her. He was lucky to have you, Ariana. Even if it was too brief. And you? She traced patterns on his chest. Are you lucky to have me? Luckiest man alive. No hesitation. Pure truth. And I intend to prove it every day for the rest of our lives. That's a long commitment, Mr. Santini. Better get used to it, future Mrs. Santini. She froze, then propped herself up on one elbow to stare at him. Did you just propose? No. He smiled, tucking hair behind her ear. When I propose, it'll be more romantic than naked in bed after makeup sex. But make no mistake, Ariana, I'm marrying you. It's just a matter of when, not if. Her eyes glistened. You're very sure of yourself. I'm very sure of us. He pulled her down for a lingering kiss. Now sleep. We'll figure out the details in the morning. She settled back against his chest with a contented sigh. Within minutes, her breathing evened into sleep. Raphael lay awake longer, holding her, marveling at the miracle of her return. He'd been given a second chance he didn't deserve, but would spend his life earning. Nothing would take her from him again. Not his past, not his world, not threats known or unknown. Ariana Greco was his future. And Raphael Santini protected what was his with absolute totality. The next morning, they woke tangled together, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Ariana stretched languidly, then froze as small arms wrapped around her from behind. Morning, Raphael murmured against her neck, already awake and watching her sleep. Creeper. But she smiled, melting back into him. How long have you been up? Hour or so. Didn't want to move and risk waking you. She turned in his arms, studying his face in morning light. No regrets about last night? My only regret is the 2 months we wasted apart. He kissed her slowly. But we're not wasting any more time. Stay. Move in. Let's do this properly. That's fast. We're both adults who know what we want. I want you here. In my space. In my life. Permanently. His eyes held hers intently. But if you need more time. I don't. She cut him off with a kiss. I spent 2 months alone thinking about what I wanted. The answer was always you. So yes. I'll move in. Raphael's smile was incandescent. Today. Today. She laughed. I have a lease and furniture, and I'll handle the lease. We'll move your furniture or buy new. Whatever you want. He was already reaching for his phone. Marco can coordinate everything. You're insane. I'm in love. He pulled her on top of him, grinning. There's a difference. They spent the morning in bed, talking, planning, making love again with less urgency and more tenderness. By noon, Raphael had arranged movers and lease termination and everything else required to transplant Ariana's life into his penthouse. By evening, her belongings were arriving in boxes and furniture, transforming the sterile bachelor space into something warmer. Your books are taking over my shelves, Raphael observed, watching her unpack. Your shelves needed actual books instead of expensive first editions you've never read. She grinned at him over her shoulder. Deal with it. Happily. He wrapped arms around her from behind. I love seeing your things here. Proof you're real. That this is happening. She leaned back into him. Still afraid I'll disappear? Terrified. Honest admission. But working on trusting this. Trusting us. Me too. She turned in his arms. We're quite the pair. Two people terrified of loss trying to build something permanent. We'll figure it out. Raphael kissed her forehead. Together. The weeks that followed were blissful domesticity mixed with gradual integration. Ariana met more of Raphael's world. Business associates who were carefully vetted and completely legitimate, family friends who'd known him since childhood, Marco who became a surprising ally in teaching her to navigate Raphael's particular brand of intensity. He's different with you, Marco told her one evening while Raphael was taking a call. Lighter. More human. He was always human. To you, maybe. Marco smiled slightly. The rest of us see the boss. The Don. You see Raphael. That's rare and precious. Raphael returned then, immediately finding Ariana and pulling her close. What are you two conspiring about? Your many flaws, Ariana said sweetly. Extensive list, Marco deadpanned. We'll need more time. Raphael glared at his consigliere without heat, then focused on Ariana. I need to go to New York tomorrow. Business meetings. 2 days, maybe 3. She felt the old fear stir but pushed it down. Okay, be safe. Come with me. The invitation was spontaneous but sincere. We'll make it a long weekend. Business during the day, Broadway and nice dinners at night. I have work. Take a few days off. When's the last time you did something spontaneous? He kissed her persuasively. Come with me. Let me show you how much easier travel is when you're not doing it alone. She found herself nodding, already mentally rearranging her schedule. Okay, yes, let's do it. New York was a revelation. Raphael worked during business hours while Ariana explored museums and galleries. Evenings, they met for dinner at restaurants that didn't take reservations for anyone except Raphael Santini. They saw Hamilton, walked through Central Park, made love in a hotel suite that cost more than her monthly salary. It was perfect. Normal. The kind of relationship she'd thought impossible with a man like him. On their last night, Raphael took her to a rooftop restaurant with views of the glittering city. They ate and talked and laughed, easy in each other's company. Over dessert, he reached across the table and took her hand. I have something for you. Raphael, you've already. It's not a gift. It's a question. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, setting it on the table between them. I know we said I'd do this more romantically, but I can't wait anymore, Ariana. I don't want to wait. Her breath caught. Raphael, marry me. He opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald ring surrounded by diamonds. Not because it's expected or because we've been together a certain amount of time, but because I love you completely and irrevocably, and I want to spend every day for the rest of my life proving it. Marry me, Ariana. Be my wife. Let me be your husband. Build this life we're already living, but make it permanent and official and forever. Tears spilled down her cheeks. We've only been back together 3 months. I don't care. His eyes burned with intensity. I knew the moment I saw you. Every day since has just been confirmation. I'm not uncertain. I'm not conflicted. I'm absolutely sure. The only question is whether you feel the same. She stared at the ring, emerald like the dress she'd worn the night they met, surrounded by diamonds that caught candlelight and threw rainbows. A ring chosen specifically for her, not generic or expected but deliberate and meaningful. Yes. The word came out choked with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you. Raphael's smile was blinding. He slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands, then pulled her across the table to kiss her thoroughly, uncaring of their audience. Around them, other diners applauded. Someone whistled. Raphael ignored them all, focused entirely on the woman in his arms who'd just agreed to be his wife. I love you, he murmured against her lips. So goddamn much. I love you too. She laughed through tears. Even though you're impossible and intense and probably going to drive me crazy. Probably. He kissed her again. But you'll never doubt you're cherished. They left the restaurant shortly after, too wrapped up in each other to care about dessert or coffee or anything except getting back to their hotel. Made love with new urgency. Fiancé and fiancée now, heading toward husband and wife. Whispered plans in the dark about weddings and futures and the family they'd build. Small ceremony, Ariana said, head on his chest. Just close friends and family. Nothing extravagant. Whatever you want. Raphael kissed her hair. Though my side of the family is extensive. I know what you are, Raphael. She tilted her head to look at him. I'm choosing you anyway. That includes the complicated family dynamics. You're sure? I'm terrified. Honest admission. But yes, I'm sure. They returned to Boston engaged and glowing, immediately caught up in wedding planning that Ariana insisted on keeping simple. Small ceremony at a historic church, reception at a restaurant Raphael didn't own for once, guest list under 100. I want it to feel real, she explained to Mrs. Lucia, who'd insisted on making the wedding cake. Not like some society spectacle. Just us and people we love celebrating. Smart girl. Mrs. Lucia patted her hand. Raffaellino needs real. He's had enough spectacle for 3 lifetimes. The months leading to the wedding were busy and beautiful. Ariana continued working at the museum. Raphael continued his gradual business transformation. They found rhythms, Sunday morning farmers markets, Wednesday date nights, quiet evenings reading side by side. Normal life. Real life. The kind Raphael had never imagined possible. 3 weeks before the wedding, normalcy shattered. Raphael was in his office when Marco burst in without knocking, face grim. We have a situation. Everything in Raphael went cold and alert. Talk. The Torinos. They're making moves. Encroaching on territory, talking to our people, spreading rumors that you've gone soft. Marco's jaw was tight. They think your relationship makes you weak. Vulnerable. Then they're mistaken. They're planning something. My sources say they're targeting the wedding. Not you directly, her. The words hit like a physical blow. Raphael stood slowly, violence coiling in his chest. Explain. They know the date. The location. They're planning to send a message by disrupting it. Could be kidnapping. Could be worse. Marco met his eyes steadily. We need to move the wedding. Change locations. Increase security. Or we eliminate the threat. Raphael's voice was deadly calm. Completely. Raphael. They threaten my fiancé, they die. It's simple. He reached for his phone. Call everyone. War Council. Now. Think about this. You've been trying to go legitimate. Starting a war 3 weeks before your wedding is exactly what I'll do if it keeps Ariana safe. Raphael's eyes were ice. Set it up, Marco. We're ending the Torino problem tonight. But before he could make the call, his personal line rang. Ariana. He answered immediately. Amore. Raphael. Her voice was strange, distant. I'm at the museum. There's a child here. In the archives. She says she knows you. What child? Ariana, what are you talking about? She says. A pause, filled with audible confusion. She says your wife is alive. That I need to tell you. That you need to start hunting. The world stopped. Raphael's blood turned to ice. What did you say? The child. She keeps repeating it. Tell Raphael Santini his wife is alive. Tell him to hunt. Ariana's voice shook. Raphael, what does that mean? What wife? His mind raced through possibilities. It made no sense. He'd never been married. Never even been engaged before Ariana. This had to be a mistake, a threat, something. I'm coming there now. Don't let the child leave. Don't let anyone leave. He was already moving, Marco on his heels. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Raphael, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. Just stay there. I'm coming. The drive to the museum was the longest 10 minutes of Raphael's life. His mind churned through scenarios, threats, possibilities. A wife who didn't exist. A child delivering impossible messages. The Torinos circling. It was connected. Had to be. He burst into the museum's administrative area, security parting for him instinctively. Ariana stood by her office, pale but composed. Beside her, a small girl, maybe 7 years old, dark hair, serious expression. The child looked up as Raphael approached. Her eyes were old, far too old for her young face. Don Santini. Her voice was steady, unafraid. Your wife is alive. She needs you to hunt her before they finish what they started. Raphael knelt to her level, gentle despite the rage churning in his chest. I don't have a wife, child. There's been a mistake. Not a mistake. The girl reached into her pocket, pulling out a photograph. Worn, aged, but unmistakable. A woman with dark hair and hazel eyes that looked eerily familiar. Her name was Isabella. They told you she died. She didn't. She's been hiding. Running. But they found her again. She sent me to tell you. Your wife is alive, and your hunt needs to begin. Raphael took the photograph with shaking hands. The woman in the picture looked exactly like Ariana.